Good morning. Yeah, I'm wearing the same shirt from yesterday. That's because I'm going to get my hair cut later, so, I'm going to change my shirt afterwards. Take off the shirt that'll have all the little hairs on it. So this morning, I remember I said I would speak more about anxiety igniting thoughts. I am. But this is Bianco Forte, and this morning we're going to have a cup of cheer because I'm going to talk to you about something that a lot of people have trouble with, and that is worrying. Okay, Bianco Forte is made to go with milk. Milk brings out the flavor in Bianco Forte. So I've got my milk in there. Okay, I think I've calculated right. It's not going to overflow. You can be watching in the background here. Okay, so let me tell you about worry. Okay, let me start with a story. I always thought that I was not a worrier particularly because my grandmother was a worrier of epic proportions, and then my mother was a worrier. I don't know, maybe not as much as her mother, but still a worrier. Oh, and good morning to y'all who are watching this morning. So my grandmother was the type of worrier that if somebody she knew was flying in a plane somewhere, and she heard on the news that there had been a plane crash, she knew that was their plane. That was the plane they were on. I mean, don't try to tell her differently. She knew, okay? So, she was so worried about, things that if something bad was going to happen, the plane that crashed and the person that she knew that was flying had to be the same. My mother was a real worrier. What's interesting is she was actually a very anxious person. You could sometimes see it in her physically. She was just so anxious. But she would stand there and say, I'm not a nervous person. And for me, growing up, oh good, it didn't overflow. There I was, seeing somebody who was obviously anxious and nervous and worried and all that, but they were saying that they weren't. And, as a kid, that's just really weird. It's like what's happening is you're seeing somebody who you look up to and you're, learning about life from, saying, this is not a nervous person. Yet you can see they are nervous. Well, you can see how that would be problematic growing up. Anyway, I learned very well to be a nervous person. Let me just get a sip of my cup of cheer. Why do I close my eyes when I sip it? Because I don't want anything else coming in to my senses. I want to just concentrate on that lovely warm cup. And the flavor of the coffee. Okay, so I figured because I was not like my grandmother or my mother that I was not a worrier. But listen to this, okay? Worry is a source of anxiety for many people, and the central difficulty for those with generalized anxiety disorder. Worry can involve images or thoughts. It is focused on problem solving, designed to plan responses to expected future difficulties. You may be a worrier if you have a habit of frequently thinking about positive, negative. Okay, let me start that one again. You may be a worrier if you have a habit of frequently thinking about possible negative events that could occur. Okay? And I'm going to read you a little assessment here that will help you to explore whether or not you have a tendency to worry. So I was so surprised. I was talking to my counselor one day, and I said, you know, I always try to figure out if I'm going to go somewhere or do something, or maybe it's like planning a trip, figure out every possibility of what could happen so that I'll be ready. And she said to me, do you know that that is a symptom of generalized anxiety disorder? And I said, but I thought I was just being responsible, to figure out, be prepared, the Boy Scouts motto, be prepared. Well, listen to this, okay? If you agree with any of these statements, just, you can mark down a check or keep it in your mind. I'm going to read, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to read 8 statements, and you in your own mind keep track of what you agree with. I am good at imagining all kinds of things that could go wrong in a specific situation. I sometimes worry that my symptoms are the result of some medical illness that has not yet been diagnosed. I know I tend to worry about trivial things. When I am busy at work or at other activities, I don't have as much anxiety. Even when things are going well, I seem to think about what could go wrong. I sometimes feel that if I don't worry about a specific situation, something will surely go wrong. Even if there is a small possibility that something negative could have happened, I tend to dwell on that possibility. And the last one, I have trouble falling asleep because of my thoughts. So if you agreed with many of these statements, you have a tendency to worry, and you'd benefit from some counseling. Yes, really. I was surprised to learn that some of these things were actually symptoms of a person who had trouble with anxiety. Okay? For instance, okay, now this may sound funny to some people, but if I was invited to do something, or if I was planning to go somewhere, and let's say it was going to be, one time, I'll tell you about this, I was invited to this big wine tasting festival, and it was at a vineyard, and there was going to be music and all that kind of stuff. This was years ago. Do you know what my first thought was? Will there be bathrooms there? If they're going to be porta potties, should I bring some extra tissues or some wipes or something in case there's no toilet paper? And then I worried, what should I wear? What's the weather going to be like? And the thing is that, normally, in the morning, I listen to the weather, or I look at the weather these days. Is it going to be hot or cold? Is it going to rain or snow or whatever? And that's enough to figure out pretty much what I'm going to wear. But back then, it was so much more intricate. Okay, well, if I wear this top, and these bottoms, okay, what if we're sitting, if there's no chairs and we're sitting on the ground, or what if we're walking a lot, or are we going to go indoors? I mean, I would think of all these things that I felt as though I had to figure out beforehand so I would be ready. And the thing is that if I didn't go through these thoughts, it made me kind of anxious. Yet, actually going through these thoughts was a symptom of anxiety, and it caused my anxiety to grow more, to be like propagated. I was growing more and more anxiety, thinking about all these possibilities. Um, were those trivial things? Well, I wouldn't have said they're trivial things, but you know, today if I was invited to something like that, because I've worked on a lot of this stuff through using self-help books and good counselors and, stuff like that, talking with friends and with family. Today, it's a much easier decision, It's going to be hot, it's going to be cold, it's going to rain. In case we sit on the ground, am I wearing something that would work for that, I don't know. I think that would pretty much be it. Yeah, it's very simple. But back when I was much more anxious, when I was a worrier, I would have, all these other thoughts. And here's the thing. All the things that I read to you in that little assessment where I said, see which things you agree with, those are all symptoms of a worrier. And I didn't know that most of my life. I am good at imagining all kinds of things that could go wrong in a specific situation. I felt like I was being responsible and planning for every eventuality. Doesn't that sound responsible? I didn't need to plan for every eventuality. Okay, I sometimes worry that my symptoms are the result of some medical illness that has not been diagnosed yet. I have a niece who's a pediatric emergency physician. So, of course, this is like if you have a relative who's a plumber. Who do you call first if something backs up in the house or you've got a leak? Your relative. So I call my niece if I have a medical thing, just to check with her. And she said, you have a tendency to be very sensitive to your physical sensations and all. And she said a lot of these sensations, they're just, normal. And you don't need to worry about them. And just hearing that from her, from someone who knows me and who loves me, I know she cares about me, it just put my mind at ease. And I felt like, you know what? I don't need to be so, picking apart every little physical symptom. Anyway, I had a lot of these things on the worry assessment, but thank heavens, a lot of them were in my past life because I've been working on them. Now, is it easy to work on them? And by the way, good morning to those of you who have tuned in a little bit after I started. Thank you for being here. So, is it easy to deal with some of these things? Yes, some of them are easy to deal with, but some of them are difficult. The more deeply ingrained they are, the more difficult it can be to practice new ways of dealing with things so that you can leave the old ways behind. So I wanted to share that with you because so many people worry, oh my gosh, I was outside walking and I wasn't wearing a mask because, they say it's okay. And somebody else walked by me, and after they walked by me, they sneezed and the wind was kind of, blowing. I was downwind from them, and oh my gosh, is it possible? Like, what if they were positive for COVID? Or, if you tend to have worrisome thoughts about what if, about planning for future situations that may not happen, if they're reasonable, yes, oh, I was in line at the grocery and the person behind me took their mask off to wipe their nose, and then they sneezed and it went all over me. I could feel it all over me. And they were coughing. And, then maybe it's legitimate to be a little concerned about, oh golly, might I have caught something from them? A cold, the flu, COVID if they happen to have it, or, who knows what. But, you wouldn't let it consume you either. Well, anyway, this is a topic that could go on and on and on. But you know what? Look at it as having a cup of cheer. Is that facing the right way? If I do it this way, a cup of cheer. Look at what I shared as a cup of cheer, because the first thing to do is to, I hear you, Grayson, is to identify whether or not you've got a problem, right, Grayson? And then when you identify the problem, yes, you can start working on it. Do you want to go outside? You want to go outside? He wants to go outside. Okay, I'll talk to you later.